has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians, the nation's founder, Sajifo Kwame Nkrumah. May God bless him, Ghana show boy, Africa's great son, Sajifo Dr. Nkrumah.
Hello, good morning to you wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining us this morning on the Mother of All Talk Shows, ALHAJI and ALHAJI. My name is Sena, Nombo. We are coming to you live from the studios of Pan-African Television. We are also live on Voter One TV in Ho. We are live on several radio affiliates, but very importantly, we are live on Ahunto 92.3 FM here in the Greater Accra region. A big thank you to every radio station, everyone that's offering us their platform to give us a wider reach. We are live on Adamfopa Media in Paris, and we are also live on social media. Facebook, Pan-African Television, at Pan-African Television is the platform you can use to watch us. If you prefer to use YouTube, you can also get us on the same handle at Pan-African Television. You get to watch the mother of all talk shows, ALHAJI and ALHAJI, live on Pan-African Television. And a big thank you for making time. Today, the major discussion this week has been centered around the gift Martin Amidu gave us. Surprise to some, not exactly surprising to others. He tendered in his letter of resignation that was to take immediate effect on that day. Initially, we saw a statement, and then the letter started to make rounds. He made a verdict on the president's commitment to a non-partisan fight against corruption. He said, even if we give the president a second term, he will not be able to carry out a non-partisan fight against corruption. So he has been the topic of discussion throughout the whole week. That will lead our discussion for today. The other thing that we'll be looking at is a story that was carried on the inside newspaper. And I want to just take you through the story of Thursday, 19th November. And the headline is Big Demo Against Ghana's EC to Hit the United States. Now, remember this week, the Electoral Commission announced that it will be undertaking an exercise that will make it possible for the Electoral Commission to declare results 24 hours after polls closed. Now, in the U.S., this is a story the inside newspaper carried. It says a big demonstration is set to take place in the United States of America. The insiders learned that a group calling itself Concerned Ghanaians in the U.S. Is organizing the demonstration, and it will be capped with a press conference at the forecourt of Capitol Hill, the West Front grassy area 1 at the lower center portion, Washington, D.C. on Saturday, November 21, 2020 at 1 p.m. The group's action, this paper gathered, aims at drawing the attention the world leaders and the international community about the growing tension and allegations of disenfranchisement and election rigging plus by the ruling government and the Electoral Commission of Ghana concerning the upcoming December 7, 2020 presidential and parliamentary elections. So that's a demonstration that's about to hit the U.S. regarding concerns that are being raised about the processes that the Electoral Commission has carried out so far and allegations of rigging that have been made. So that will be our second topic for discussion. And then if we have time, we'll talk about fresh concerns about COVID-19. There are even concerns about whether or not we are doing the testing that we claim we are doing, or if the testing is focused mainly on the airports. Well, the government has gotten $30 million, I told you the last time, from the World Bank. What is that supposed to be used for? And how can we tell whether or not there's a second wave in Ghana? Well, so we'll spend some time because the campaigns are intensifying and the crowds are gathering. That'll be the third topic that we'll be discussing on the topic on the program today. I apologize. Well, joining me to discuss this issue today is Mr. Kwesi Prajinos, managing editor of the Inside newspaper, who joins us today on the show. And we are privileged to be joined by a member of parliament for Kato South. It's been a very long while. Nombo Fifi Fiavikwete joins us on the show today. Welcome and thank you. Wonderful to see you this morning. We're also joined by Jifa Tega, who is becoming quite a regular alongside Gabi on the show. It's always wonderful to see Jifa on the show. And then this one, I think I'd have to make some reference. We're joined today by Idrisu Salifu Protocol.
Thank you, sir.
Wonderful to see you. Good morning too.
Good morning.
Who is a member of the MPP's communication team. So that's my panel for today. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll start a discussion on the resignation of Martin Amidu and the full ramifications of that resignation. And we'll start a discussion with Honorable Fifi Kwete shortly.
Hello, what are you doing Tuesday to Friday, 7:30 to 9 o'clock p.m. every day? You should be watching The Couch. I'll tell you why. On Tuesdays, we talk social issues, lifestyle, health, all those everyday issues that affect us in the big ways. Let Wednesdays are for book reviews. Thursdays are for the hard talk, those socio-economic, policy-oriented, political questions that demand for the tough questions to be asked. And personality profiling Fridays, when we get to know the stories behind the winning personalities we love. Inspirational story from inspirational personalities. Hey, listen, you really cannot miss The Couch with me, Amma, but still the only TV show with a hat.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and the champion of liberty.
Well, thank you very much for sticking and staying with us on the Mother of All Talk Shows, ALHAJI and ALHAJI. Very importantly, your views are a part of this show. So if you're using Facebook, do use the comment section, share a view with us. I'll read it as we go along. If you're watching us through television or through Facebook or YouTube or Volta One TV, we have a number that's displayed across the screen. That's our text message and WhatsApp line. Please use that number. Send us a comment and I'll read it as we go along. Once again, welcome. So we're starting the discussion with issues surrounding the full ramifications of the resignation of Martin Amidu. And I start with Honorable Fifi Kwete. Honorable, once again, wonderful to see you.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy to be here. Good morning to all your very many viewers in Ghana and beyond. I'm happy for the opportunity to share in conversation. Good morning to my fellow panelists, my senior comrade, Kwesi Pratt. We've not met for a bit. The week has been quite a momentous one, coming just a few days after the loss of our former president, the founder of the NDC, Flight Lieutenant General John Rawlings. It's been quite a very eventful week. First and foremost, the resignation of Martin Amidu, maybe some people who were a bit privy would have seen it coming. I would say that I was a bit privy to, of course, the frustrations, because obviously he's the kind who every now and then frustrating him. But I was not exactly expecting to hear that he was going to drop his resignation. So it would simply mean that issues have come to a head and he simply could not continue in that same office. To begin with, everybody does know that the ruling NPP generally have trumpeted the whole establishment of the office of the special prosecutor as virtually the flagship program and accomplishment as far as their crusade, or let's call it their so-called crusade against corruption, was concerned. As the president, proudly declared, the coming in of Martin Amido as special prosecutor was meant to send what's called the fear, literally the fear of God, into all corrupt officials. The interesting thing about our friends on the other side is that invariably when they speak, they are of the view that the corrupt officials are their opponents. That unfortunately has been the case. And that I would say right from the word-go is what has led to the difficulty that we have today. That when he often spoke about corrupt officials, he had in mind his opponents, because he had mounted a whole campaign, and that campaign simply was built and established on the fact that the previous government was a corrupt government, and that he was a champion of incorruptibility. He was going to literally bring in a whole new era of fighting for transparency. So in his mind, this was a moment to bring the special prosecutor Martin Amido, and the choice even of Martin Amido. You clearly will see that the major reason why they went for Martin Amido was because they saw in Martin Amido someone who had an agenda against the previous government. So it was a pretty very convenient one. So Martin clearly was being brought in there with a view that by the time, if I remember in 2001 when NPP took over, I can't remember whether it was in 2001 they made a pronouncement, which part of 2001, but I think it was very early in 2001 sometime, when the late J.H. Manson declared very boldly that by the time the fast track court prosecution of NDC officials had finished, NDC would cease to exist. Now that should let you know what the mindset of our friends on the other side has always been. For them, the talk about anti-corruption is not really a talk about nation. It's not a talk about bringing about what you call integrity to country. For them, the talk about anti-corruption is about obliterating who they consider to be their opponents. That generally has been the same thing they did against Kwame Nkrumah. So when they came, when they overthrew Kwame Nkrumah, the whole point was simply to establish that he was so terrible, he was such a monstrosity that they represented the better side. So it was not an issue of we are better. No, it's an issue of trying very hard to create that specter of that your opponent are bad, we are good. And they believe that they have the media, they've got what I call the enablers. And that is something I'll be coming to. A lot of what we are seeing today simply has been due to the enablers. The people who have enabled this government to be able to continue this whole charade of anti-corruption, this deception of the masses, creating the impression that they really are committed to this fight. When the real truth is that when you enter into it, you see that if there's any group that actually will open this country to a lot more of corruption, it has actually been our friends in power today. You speak to people who have been in this country, who are not Ghanaians, expatriates. You have a genuine conversation with them. They will tell you they didn't hear from the time of Rawlings. They were here through the time of Kufuor, President Mills, President Mahama, and now President Akufo-Addo. You talk to them honestly, they will tell you that they have not seen the level of corruption that is in this country as they have now. President Rawlings' government doesn't come close. President Kufuor's government that we thought really was terrible does not come close. President Mills, President Mahama combined does not come anywhere close to the corruption that we have in this country today. And they will tell you, and these are not Ghanaians. These are experts. On this one, I can even say that NPP supporters can actually have that conversation with them. Just how oftentimes some of them may feel that there will be victimization. But if you have that open conversation, then they will tell you that the level of corruption we have in this country now is worse than has ever been. And it's not simply an issue of the corruption that society is corrupt. No, we're talking about the enablement that has enabled this government to actually create this whole amazingly, they used to actually shout about create, loot, and share. If that was what they call create, loot, and share, then only God knows really how you can call what we have today. Now, let's go a little more into some of the issues relating to Martin Amido. Martin Amido obviously took up the case against this Agyapa royalties deal. And I'm sure the government of the day was a little taken aback, because this is a deal that they thought really had been done. Even after the NDC, we in the minority clearly declared that we were not going to take part in that. After we raised a number of major issues at the committee level, came to the plenaries and tried to tell them, and they said they clearly are determined that they were going to go ahead, and we took our boycott. We left, and then came out with a major press conference to explain why we thought this was a real problem for the country. Then, of course, civil society and others came on board and started also trumpeting the real thing, and then that was what naturally created a whole conversation. And Martin Amido felt, listen, there was a need to go into this. Now, subsequent to he going into what you call the risk assessment relating to the whole deal, he came out with this report. Now, Martin Amido obviously submitted this report to the president out of courtesy, which really, principally, I don't particularly think is a problem. He also submitting to the president with a view of the president changing the report, or the view of the president asking him to modulate the report. No, I'm just informing you and give you an opportunity. If you want to go ahead, bring it. Let the country know that this is the report that the special prosecutor have. No problem. He gave. The president. I don't know whether the president was the one who asked him that he should give him a bit of time for him to come out of it. I'm not too sure how that particular conversation went. But obviously, after waiting for a while, Martin Amido decided that, listen, I'm going to come out to the public and let the public know what this is about. Now, I think he felt as usual worried about the reply that came from the office of the president, which was addressed by, I think, the secretary to the president. He felt that was very patronizing. He felt as though it's almost as if you guys were going to teach me how I'm going to do my work. It's almost as if what I've done is not independent enough. You are now going to literally. So he felt very patronized, and of course, in the process of that, things escalated, and then the real details started emerging. And what emerged eventually was that the president asked to see Martin Amido, and they met in his office some Sunday evening or so. Now the question is, what business have the president inviting Martin Amido after he had submitted to him an independent report? What business? For you to be calling the special prosecutor to your office to have what conversation with him? That is the first question. The second question is, according to Martin Amido, the conversation the president clearly showed that as far as the president was concerned, Martin needed to take into consideration the feedback from the finance minister. The finance minister actually had explained his side of the story. What business does the president have trying to influence Martin Amido to take into consideration what you call the report or what the analysis of the finance minister? Now, so clearly Martin saw in this conversation that the president clearly was not committed to the special prosecutor doing an independent job. Subsequent to this whole event this week came again the realization that in the process of doing that investigation, the finance minister himself had actually gone to visit Martin Amido in his residence. The finance minister goes to Martin Amido to go and do what? An investigation is being done into how you, as finance minister, had gone about literally mortgaging the royalties that belong to the people of Ghana, gold royalties. And you decide to go and visit the special prosecutor to go and do what? Now, knowing our friends, and I've heard a couple of them already starting, it's not true. Martin obviously is lying. And you tell yourself that, when would this stop? Martin Amido is lying about you visiting him? Martin Amido actually has no reason to fabricate a story of that nature. I'm very sure that Martin Amido has evidence of the finance minister visiting him at home. When Martin started threatening that they should not dare me, otherwise death in Lene is going to come out, I'm pretty sure that he's got solid evidence. And if they decide to continue what they're doing, Martin obviously is going to come out with even more information about what finance minister came to do in his house. And it's pretty obvious. The attitude of the president in trying to stop Martin Amido and stop meaning trying to influence what you call the investigation clearly show that there's something that the president has to hide. The attitude of the finance minister visiting Martin in his residence shows that the finance minister clearly knows that there's something wrong, and this information, when it comes out, is going to be bad for him and the government. Now, so you tell yourself, how committed is this government to the fight against corruption? Now, you add this to a catalog of other things that have happened. Issues relating to how Domelevo effectively was hounded out of office. I mean, simply because he took up a case against another close associate of the president. Another close associate of the president who was involved in this whole procurement relating to the Kroll associate issue. And Domelevo took up that issue as it ought to be. And then suddenly, the president remembers that Domelevo has not had his accumulated leave since he been in office. The president of the republic decides to remember that somebody who is taking up an issue against the senior minister in the government has not taken his accumulated leave. And they ensure that that person proceeds on leave. And as soon as he goes, they lock his office. Allow his deputy to take over. And then the issue that was being investigated, that the Auditor General was taking up, that issue today is an issue that exists no more. And in the midst of this, we hear this president continue to tout himself as Mr. Incorruptible. Now, all this shows clearly that the president is guilty of a massive cover-up. But see, the cover-up itself is a flattery. Because often when we say it's a cover-up, it means he himself is not guilty. He's just trying to cover other people up. I want to submit that the president himself is corrupt. He's a beneficiary of corruption. This is not just about cover-up. He actually is the ultimate beneficiary of what is going on. The reason why he's covering up is because he is benefiting. He's instigating it. He's inspiring it. He's in the midst of it. He's enjoying it. And it is terrible for you to really ride on that high horse of incorruptibility and continue having billboards all over shouting the battle is the Lord when you are presiding over this level of corruption. When you mounted all kinds of platforms, claim that you were not going to do family and friends, and you have now instituted what I call the most shameful regime of cronies, of people who are your tribesmen, family men, put them in government. And when they are doing the wrong thing, you continue covering them. It's absolutely terrible. Now, in the midst of all this conversation, what saddens me the most is a level of hopelessness and cynicism that it has brought into the country. All over you hear the conversation, you keep hearing people talking about all the politicians are like that, all the politicians are corrupt. I'm like, why are you talking about all the politicians are corrupt? President Mahama, when he was in office, it is simply an issue of one appointee expressed a desire to have 1 million cedis in her account. Swift, an action was taken against her. That appointee lost her position. It's not like she has done a deal that had made a 1 million. It's not like the NLA issue, for example, that you are claiming of $10 million. And when media want to bring it out, you get NCA to scramble and make it impossible for the country. I mean, the impunity with which they go about what they are doing is shocking. It's shocking. And all this is because they believe that some way, somehow, enablers will continue allowing them to get away, virtually with murder. Those who should be speaking are quiet. And then when they are not able to talk, now what they do is that they conveniently put everybody together, all of them are the same. Simply because they simply do not want to call Nana Akufo-Addo and call his government and say what you are doing is simply shameful. They simply don't have the courage. So they must always try to band together others to them. You understand? So the more you go into this, the more you realize that the Nana Akufo-Addo and his group have really dropped what you call the bar. The bar has been so much lowered. So much lowered. Now, I was telling somebody that, listen, all this shows that as a leader, you lack the strength of character. You lack the courage of conviction. Because leadership is all about strength of character. I was telling somebody that, listen, are you surprised, for example, that in 4 years, he has not had the courage to do what you call reshuffle, what I call proper reshuffle? I don't know of any government that has spent 4 years that there has not been any proper reshuffle. The only people that you shift around is maybe somebody who's annoying you, like Otiko Jabad, possibly say something, you take it out. That's a coward. It's a coward who deals only people who have annoyed you. A real man of courage, a man of principle, a man of integrity. Even people who are still your friends, you feel they are not performing, you move them. You change them. You replace them. They may be your brothers, they may be your sisters, you move them. That's what courage and that's what principle and leadership is about. They have a president who simply have become rather very weak. And all kinds of this are going. He's unable to take a position. The same reason why, for example, he has a number of ministers he has. Because who has this number of ministers except a weak leader? And why did he come about? Because the man simply is afraid. He must make everybody must get something. So if in the process he has to literally have huge numbers in office, so be it. Why? Because he's afraid that if I don't, this person will become angry. He helped me, I have to give him a position. Weakness. Weakness. In the process, you saddle the country with these huge numbers. In the process, also, you are allowing these kind of things to go on every step of the way. Your deputy minister for information involved in Australia visa scandal. What do? You come out and say that he's been cleared. All right. If he's been cleared, bring out the comprehensive report that will show to us exactly who were guilty. And in what processes that cleared A and exonerated A and implicated B. Nothing. We are supposed to just believe because somehow the president says there is some CID report that has exonerated his deputy minister for information. That's not the way it works. That's not the way it works at all. I mean, so you're talking about the PPA scandal, for example, where the gentleman who was involved, after this whole bombshell came out, revelations had come out through Manasseh Azuri. I mean, the man, as it were, was simply kept in the position and enjoying the perks of office all the way to now. I mean, who does that? And yet you claim that you are a champion of anti-corruption. You are fighting systematically every single person who is taking up issues. People who have crusaded against corruption in this country and been able to have their peace. Even though, of course, they were doing against the government of the day, nobody hounded them out. Today, you fight against them, they fight you back. So you do it not just against Martin Amidu, you do it against Domelovo, you do it against Manasseh Azuri, you do it against Edward Deti, you do it against anybody who takes up a case against you, even Anas Arimeyao, who had done the same thing that the president himself claimed he was going to use when he was campaigning in 2012. The Anas principle. Today, all the Anas principle has gone out. The president actually, his own people, started fighting the same Anas. To the point that his associate Ameswale today is no more. Now, so it's a really tragic situation relating to this country. It's sad, and I think the most important thing, two things stand out. I mean, Martin Amido stating, for example, one, that the president must understand that 2020 is not 2016. 2016, he could get away with all these empty talk about fighting corruption. In 2020, the people of Ghana know better. That's a very major statement. And second statement said by Martin Amidu is to the effect that, listen to me, I don't see that even if you have access to a second term, things are going to be any better. And this is quite interesting. And this same Martin Amidu is the same person that they themselves are trumpeting. Fearless, honest, a patriot. Those are the voices that they themselves use. Total confidence in him. And the same man is now telling the country that no, I don't see your commitment against the fight, to this fight against corruption. Even if you get in a second term, it's a lost cause, it's a lost battle. You understand? So the more you go into this conversation, the more you see that what it is we've had is exactly what Nana Akufo-Addo has been. A lot of beautiful, flowery speeches, a lot of nice words, but very little action. Very little commitment to making sure he does it. It's all about our opponents. So in the midst of all this, all they do is that they try to, you guys, you did this, you did it. I mean, you came into office, as a paragon of integrity, claiming that you are coming to raise the bar. You are coming to us if we do things that have not been done before. And as soon as they talk about what you're doing, then you come and make a reference to what had happened in the past in order to justify yourself. It's terrible. I'm saying that we need to also understand that the corruption is a little even broader than this. I mean, the whole manner in which they prosecuted even their campaign, and the way they, for example, they prosecuted even their policies while in office, should tell you that this is simply a very corrupt group of people. Check, for example, some of the main promises they made. You, for example, made a promise that when I come to office, I'm going to reduce borrowing. When you come to office, what you do is that you actually take borrowing to levels that we have never seen before. That's a corrupt regime. A corrupt regime that has not got even the courage to accept the truth. A candid regime will have the courage to say, you know what? This was what I made as a promise. I've come into office. The realization is that it's not. At least, we grant Kufuor that. And one of the things he promised was that he's going to have a smaller government. He came into office. He saw that the reality was different. He at least had the moral courage to say, you know, this is what I thought. That just at least gives you a plus. Have you ever heard him? No. So many promises have been systematically bastardized. You promise to reduce corporate income tax. You come, nothing is done about that. You promise that when you come, there's going to be, as I mentioned, borrowing. You actually have taken it to the whole level. Even some of the things they are doing, the promise made and what is being done is basically not the same. So, for example, you promise one factory in every district in the country. Then you come and take existing factory, you give them some incentive, and you come and put a billboard on them and say 1D1F. You're deceiving people. That's corruption. That's corruption. You need to just have the courage and say, you know what? I promise that every single district where there is no factory, I'll have one factory. I've come, the reality is that it's not going to be that easy. So we have to do a certain modification. That's honesty. But to continue deceiving people, using the media and think that you can throw dust in the eyes of people is corruption. So increasingly you see that every single thing they do is simply continuing this same corrupt attitude, which simply means that you can deceive people, because corruption really is about deceit. It's about the deception of the people, and that's what translates into all kinds of shenanigans being done, and they think that they can cover it up. They have appointees do things to cover it up. You see, in all this we need to understand it's not about perfection. There's no perfect human being. There's no perfect government. Even the US, there's no perfect government. But often it's about courage and conduct. So that when it comes up, you deal with it. President Rawlings, peace upon him. I mean, when he came into office the first time, I'm talking about when he came as chairman of the PNDC, one of the first things he did was to take up an issue against his own nephew, his brother's son, who had done something criminal. And he was dealt with. Indirectly, he set the tone that no matter how close you are with me, if it's wrong, it's just wrong. That's what you do as a leader. What do we see in the case of the president? No. Everybody does something, he hurries to cover him up. It's his opponents who are attacking his people. His opponents who are, it's all fabrication. You do not, take the country where it ought to go. Now, so, those are initial comments I want to make on this issue. I find it a sad development concerning this country. We as a people have to simply realize that MPP basically says one thing and does the opposite. As a people, and the earlier the Ghanaians realize that, the better. At the moment, what they are doing is they believe they're listening. It's part of all this degeneration, this decadence, this obvious deception of people. Somehow they can continue just shouting about, oh, we are giving you free, we are getting you free water, oh, free electricity, oh, you are not paying, that kind of thing. So they believe that once you shout free, no matter this deception and this obvious disappointment and shocking thing that is going on in the country, the people should vote for them because they are giving free. Even that itself is a massive deception on the people, and the people need to wake up. We have a nation to build, we have a future, and we cannot allow this degeneration to continue. It will only grow worse. All right. Thank you very much.
Honorable Fifi Kwete, if you just join us, no matter what talk shows ALHAJI and ALHAJI, we're talking about the resignation of Martin Amidu and the full ramifications. Now, let me read a couple of your messages before we move on. Hadi in Pig Farm says, Abba, Mr. Martin Amidu writes a letter of 13 paragraphs to the president, and the president's secretary replies with 44-paragraph response. You cannot fight corruption in a nepotistic office. The president's fight against corruption has failed long ago. Those cooking all the corrupt bills are family and friends. Tell us if you can sack any of them or see them being punished. Cole and Associates, PDS, Agyapa, who led all this. How can you call investor infuse your views into his work? The government has no case and should bow in shame. Thank you very much. Hadi Mpefam sent that one. Mistake and Sawam send this one. He says, good morning, and says, Nanado, okay, the inept treacherous Nanado-led government will go down in history as the most nepotistic, corrupt, and corruption-clearing agent, because if try to fight against corruption in his government, corruption will rather fight you back. Domelevu and Matanamidu are gone. Amesuwale was shot dead. Manasseh Azure is in exile because they are fighting corruption. So who is next? Let's all join the rescue mission, bring back John and Jane to rescue Ghanaians from the hands of this insensitive and heartless government, you say. Thank you very much for that mistake. And then Swam, Positive Change in Medina says, apparently, okay, I think I'm reading an old message. Positive Change in Medina says, corruption has defeated Mr. Daniel Yaodomelevu, Auditor General. Now, corruption has also defeated the only citizen vigilante and anti-corruption crusader, Martin Alamiso Benskai's Amido. It is obvious Akufo-Addo and his group of gangs have lost the corruption fight. Now, we the citizens have a solemn responsibility to protect this country from the hands of this economic vampires. Hashtag vote for GM, hashtag vote number 2. He says, thank you for that. Idi Gideon says, good morning. I seriously pray for Ghana as I see it. Having listened to a sister station all this while and this morning, I can't imagine why the MPP communicators find it so difficult to speak to relevant points, but are trying hard to defend the indefensible by saying that the former SP should have incorporated the views of the finance minister in his assessment report. In my layman's perspective, he needed nothing of sort. Why should the president insist on that? Ghana must be rescued following the example set by the Americans in resisting the abuse of power with impunity and high arrogance, thinking other people cannot reason beyond some level. Thank you. Let me read Dennis Yakwiten and Farouk in Tamale. Dennis says, truth be told, as I still maintain, that if this government under President Nanado were to be a military junta, it would have been justifiably toppled by another set of military groups, as the end of the road appeared to have been reached with the SP's resignation. The state capture is just monumentally incredible, even as we have all the patience to remain still as God leads. That said, the SP should be consistent, as that his "if push me, I'll speak out" statement is really not on and inconsistent with his course. Shalom, he says. Thank you, Dennis Yakwete. And let me end with Dayu Farouk in Tamale, who says, good morning. So, Honorable Matanamidu went through this painful ordeal under MPP corrupt officials, including the president, preventing him not to fight corruption. No wonder Kofi Kumsin said he can't sleep with his eyes when Nanado becomes the president of Ghana. He has been vindicated today. Don't forget to keep sharing your thoughts on the issue that we are discussing. Let me move to Idris Osale for protocol for his views on the resignation of Martin Amido.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Let me extend courtesies to Uncle Kwesi Pratt. Good morning to Honorable Fifi Kwete and Madam, very beautiful woman. I will say good morning to you. I think that this is a very important discussion, and we think that we need to ensure that we do away with propaganda and look into the facts as they are. Because at the end of the day, if you don't take time, there is the tendency that which my brother have actually demonstrated, playing to the gallery, as if to suggest that a particular huge situation or crime has been committed in respect of that particular transaction, the Agyapa deal. Now, it's imperative that in talking about politics in Ghana, we need to try and make a recollection and see how best we can move forward building this particular country. It is not for nothing that the good people of Ghana would, through their taxpayers' money, they actually are, as it were, expect people who lead to be able to use the resources of the country to their benefit. Now, I will not allow Honorable Fifi Kwete to sit and poo-poo these beautiful developmental agendas that the government of the day are doing, even in the midst of COVID-19. You understand? He wanted to put the idea of free water. You see how beautiful he's looking, this morning. I mean, I don't know when Honorable paid, his water bills. That is a significant and important, milestone that the good people of Ghana ought to be appreciating. And of course, he ought to be appreciated. So I think that these are issues that, if you don't take time, you might think that somebody is actually speaking the truth, which in reality, they are just trying to play to the gallery and wanting to suggest as though the country is being, ungovernable. Now, we were made to believe, and which, was precisely so, in the elsewhere administration of the NDC, we saw a colossal amount of, corruption here and there that actually ensued within that particular administration. Of course, these are some of the issues that they have sat down to create a particular grand agenda to ensure that, look, let us push that particular corruption tag on the on the NPP, so that there would be a semblance of equalization, so that at the end of the day, possibly we would get a political, as it were, mileage into this particular issue of, corruption. J.J. Rawlings just died. Of course, may his soul rest in peace. This was a gentleman who was seen to be fighting corruption in one way or the other. He thought that he had actually fought, used his blood through, the collaboration of others to give birth to the NDC as we speak today. And it is very evident that the NDC, certain elements within the NDC ensured that, because J. Rawlings appeared at a particular point in time to as it were, have some kind of a dissenting opinion on issues regarding their administration, and specifically during the John Moses administration. He came out and wrote, one or two epistles just to, as it were, express his disquiet about happenings within the NDC as at that time. Even to the extent that he said that, look, he said that when we won, I thought I could retire and write my memoirs. But elements within the party, that is the NDC, were not allowing him. And they have recruited people to bastardize him just because he was shouting, to the rooftops that, look, there is unprecedented corruption that was happening. So if you can sit here and you think that you can, cajole people to come into your line, please, this is unfortunate. I think that what is very significant in this particular direction is, to what extent has the NPP demonstrated its commitment in fighting corruption? Now, it is not for nothing that the NPP, in the run-up to the 2016 election, we came out with a very cogent manifesto, and we sold it to the people of Ghana. They bought into it. They noticed that, look, this was a political party, or this is a political party that, when given the mandate, they would be able to solve, to use Uncle Kwesi Pratt's word, hybrid-headed problems that confront the good people of Ghana. That is how come they gave the NPP the opportunity to govern. Now, significant among the promises was to establish an independent, special prosecutor that would be able, as it were, to fight corruption, so that, because corruption has become an albatross around the neck of Ghana, especially so that was actually demonstrated, in the elsewhere Mahama administration, to the extent that the sitting president, John Dramani Mahama, was cited in a corruption case that was actually being investigated by Manasseh Azure, and today that they are eulogizing him. He came out with a particular expose that indicted a sitting president. These are the critical matters. So they just, LDC just trying to make sure that whatever be the situation, they must target His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. That is the agenda. And look, I take solace from, I would even read one of the paragraphs that Martin Amidu said, that look, for him, he is an anti anti-corruption crusader, not an anti-corruption entrepreneur. Because look, in Ghana here, there are certain people or, certain questionable bodies that purport to suggest that they are fighting corruption or they are fighting against corruption. Meanwhile, it is a grand scheme to ensure that they benefit from whatever and through a whole lot of kind of mafia games that they would want to do, just to profit out of the issue of let's moot the idea of fighting corruption or issues of that nature. These are the critical issues that we should be looking at. I think that it is important to expose some of these particular things so that Ghanaians would come to the realization that the good people of Ghana are being governed well by the new Patriotic Party administration as we speak. Because listen, and I don't know, let's look at the concerns of Martin Amidu. What did Martin Amidu say? That he came out, or he wanted, or he intended to investigate, or if you like, scale up the investigation because in his opinion, there are widespread of potential corruption, issues that has actually greeted the Agyapa deal. Basically, that was what he sought to say. But what is very significant in this particular discussion is that we need to avert our minds to something very basic in law. The Odi Altering Party rule in law. Every legal-minded person knows that if somebody is, is a subject of investigation, a basic tenants will tell you that give that person a hearing. At the end of the day, because it involves people's integrity and all that. You don't just sit down, at the comfort of your office and think that this person is corrupt. And for that matter, whatever pieces of information that I have gathered is sacrosanct, and for that matter, I should carry it, into the public domain. That for me is, I don't know, but I think that Martin Amidu should have averted his mind onto that particular very, 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 very important, legal, consideration, because at the end of the day, it would question even the details, or if you like, the sanctity of the report itself. And I am happy that Nana Santi-Beduatu came out with this particular response from the government. And I thought that maybe Honorable Fifi Kwete would have been very appreciative of the responses coming from Nana Santi-Beduatu on this particular matter, because every single issue that Martin Amidu raised was actually being effectively, watered down by this particular report. So for me, I think that these are some of the things that, look, if we really want to fight corruption, we have to put our personal idiosyncrasies aside and look forward and forge ahead to see what is it that we are able to come together, to forge ahead as a particular policy that would shape and guide the process forward. Not this particular kind of unfortunate incident that has happened. Martin Amidu has actually demonstrated, even at the time that particular office was given to him, he has demonstrated beyond reasonable doubt that he was capable of fighting corruption. Now today they are trying they have now started singing the songs of Martin Amidu, and I said, Lord have mercy. Are we in Ghana? Martin Amidu, that today you now try to glorify and say that, look, this is a person, because of that particular report. I don't get it. So for me, I think that the genuine issues are what? Was there any issues that was fishy in the deal? If yes, what are they? What are the particulars? Can somebody come out with those particular issues for better interrogation rather than playing to the gallery? So these are the issues that I think that we should be talking about. Now, Martin Amidu said that he was in his house, that the finance minister came to him, that if we don't stop talking, or if issues are not being piped down, he will reveal what happened. This is a man you wanted to indict, And he wants you to listen to him. Now, even if he had come into your house for purposes of discussing that particular matter, there isn't any criminality or otherwise on that particular, move. Because you know why? In law, lawyers know that, when two people are having issues, when two litigants are having issues, of course, it is the judge that is supposed to be the arbiter of the case. Now, in law, there is a particular maxim or principle that says that talks about that is prohibited ex parte communication. Prohibited ex parte communication doesn't come into play here because the judge, which in this case let's attribute it to Martin Amidu. Martin Amidu is not prosecuting the finance minister at this particular stage. You are only seeking for information. So you don't sit down and take any information that you think you have gathered, and for that matter, it should constitute relevant, literature or material for you to indict somebody because of this. And lawyers, I've heard so many people indicating that. So fine, what Martin Amidu did at the end of the day, if the finance minister or whatever report that you have come out with, are vindicated, it means that you yourself will become a subject of libel suit. I'm referring to Martin Amidu because you have dented somebody's image. You have not given them the opportunity to for fair hearing. These are the critical matters that we ought to be interrogating. Now, like I said, history should be a guide for us. We were in this country when a whole lot of corruption was actually being perpetrated to the extent that the president himself, I'm referring to JDM, he came out and said that, look, that we have spent all the monies of Ghana, and for that matter, the economy was actually, or if you like, the meat was eaten to the bone. You know what was the reason why the meat was eaten to the bone? They came out with all manner of programs and policies just to make the system. And I think that I believe Uncle Kwesi Prado would come in and attest to this particular fact. Let's look at JIDA. Let's look at other matters that the the NDC administration as at that time actually did. Even to the extent that certain elements, or if you like, some appointees of the NDC administration as at then are being either they are in court or if you like, either they are in so many legal processes just because they were involved in one way or the other in corruption. A mention can be made of the Smith scandal that greeted the nation. These are very, very important matters that we ought to be looking at. Too. And we should look at also, of course, the corruption scandal that greeted Cocoa Board. The corruption, the amount of thievery that actually came as a result of the Cocoa Board scandal. Lord have mercy. These are the issues when we talk of corruption, people should be averting their minds to. So for me, the NDC will try so hard, but believe you me, what I take solace on is not what my senior brother, the former minister, would say, but what the kind of reflections and the economic policies that affect the average Ghanaian. They are the best judges to this particular case. They will be able to say that yes, comparing the NPP and the NDC, the NPP have demonstrated beyond reasonable doubt that they are good in terms of developing this country, and they are good when it comes to fighting corruption. So for me, I wouldn't listen to any view to this particular contrary because there isn't any enough evidence to portray that a particular wrongdoing has been done. Now, Martin Amidu also came out and said that logistics are not given, etc., etc. His office are under-resourced and all that. For God's sake, I would entreat social people who are very, very well-minded that governance is not a joke. Governance is not about just spewing out certain things that you cannot substantiate. please, people should try and get a copy of this particular this particular how shall I call it, report that has actually emanated as a result of the of whatever issues that came out from Martin Amidu. I'm referring to the rebuttals that came, and applies their minds into this. That would even engender a very positive discussions moving forward. Now, let's talk about other issues that, for example, Martin Amidu said that he didn't have an office and all that. All these things are being, people even at a point wondered, what is it that, Martin Amidu really was looking for? You say you need an office. A particular office was allocated to you. You said, okay, yes, we would accept it. At a point in time, you would call the chief of staff and say, look, because of one or two defects that I have, independently took upon myself, I have noticed that it is not fit for purpose. So they decide, and then so it means that you need another office. On 3 to 4, 5 occasions, different office allocations were done. So you see, if people are not told about the real happenings of this particular nature, people would think that perhaps what Martin Amidu was saying was right. So I think that it's about time we should try and look into these particular matters and ensure that we don't allow people to come to speak with discordant voices just to confuse the good people of Ghana. Now, as we speak, because of the COVID-19, which my brother alluded to and said that the government are giving freebies and all that. In COVID, a particular situation that had the potential of what is it called, contracting the economy, and we think that the government should sit down and do nothing. I don't know. This is a government under the COVID that has been able to demonstrate a particular commitment by, as it were, helping the good people of Ghana through so many interventions. For example, if you look at the National Board for Small Scale Industries, they are disbursing monies to businesses and people to be able to, as it were, pushing them in their day-to-day running of their business. And you sit here and tell me that this is not good. People, because of the COVID, could not have engaged in some form of economic activities. The government decides to cushion them by giving them, by giving them a respite in terms of, water bills and all that. You say is not important. What for me is important is that the average Ghanaian, knows that this is an issue that goes straight to their own benefit, rather than somebody wanting to sit on air and think that it is not good. Now, even to the extent that they are putting the free senior high school, and my issue is that, look, when the results came, the free senior high school results that just came, I was shocked to the marrow that elements within the NDC, instead of being happy because their siblings, their brothers and sisters has actually able to make it to this particular results, they were rather shouting. So you will ask yourself, is it that they hate free SAS to the extent that to this particular extent, or what are they actually looking out for? This is a policy that when the MPP administration said they would execute, we said it was not feasible, and that it was a matter of a constitutional injunction. And we said that, look, it is a matter of constitutional injunction, so long as it is justiciable. And we thought that at this particular point, it is justiciable to be able to carry out this particular issue of the free senior high school policy. So I think you don't even know which particular angle or what the NDC actually are looking out for. So for me, I think that we are on course. We have been able to demonstrate to the good people of Ghana that yes, we are fighting corruption. Okay. I would have to make mention of some of the things, or if you like, some of the legal processes that has actually gone on in terms of ensuring that people who actually make the system are actually being hounded down through the legal processes. I have mentioned, I think even in the first in the first years of the administration, the NPP was able to ensure that we carry out a very good legal arguments to ensure that the likes of what is his name, Abugapele and all that were able. I mean, they were put behind bars because we demonstrated our commitment in fighting corruption. We demonstrated our commitment in fighting corruption. Now there is another. I mean, as we speak now, what is it called? Stephen Open. Stephen Open, like I initially mentioned, the Cocoa Ball scandal. He is actually being cited for willful causing financial loss to the state. He is actually being cited for willful causing financial loss to the state. That for me is very significant. Ernest Thompson, Director General of Smith. Please, I know. Honorable.
Hold on and take counsel. Hold on and take counsel. You cannot sit in the studio and pronounce judgment on matters before the courts. That is what is referred to as contempt. If you want to commit contempt, commit it on your own. Don't drag this station into that arena. The Cocoa Board case is before a competent court, it's before the High Court, it's being determined. The other case you mentioned is a case before court. The court has not determined it yet. You are committing contempt in this seat, and be careful.
I think I get your drift right, and I believe Uncle Kwesi was not actually listening to me. I said that the NPP administration have demonstrated their commitment in fighting corruption, and I said that several cases are before the court in one way or the other that I'm cataloging.
Okay.
So I understand.
If you can talk about the case without necessarily mentioning people's name to make it sound like they are being.
I am not. interrogating.
Whether or not it is corruption is a matter before the court to be determined.
So it means that
so prosecution is ongoing.
So Ghanaians don't deserve to know which particular persons who are undergoing those prosecutions.
Public knowledge, by the way.
We go beyond that.
No.
And claim that they are corrupt officials and so on. Stop that.
Please.
You call them corrupt.
You see, please listen to me. When I am speaking, I know very well that I ought to be very cautious on certain pronouncements that I make. I don't just sit here and speak by heart. And I'm saying, and I would want to repeat that during the elsewhere NBC administration, there were certain issues related to corruption in one way or the other. That the Attorney General Department is, either in the process of, prosecutions, or they have actually even gone far through the prosecution processes. And I'm mentioning names of those particular persons. How does this, can be attributed to, committing contempt of court? We know contempt of court. Contempt of court is to sit and then pronounce judgment or pronounce guilt before the court itself. That is contempt of court.
The foundation you laid was that there were issues of corruption. And that's what they are saying, that if your government is taking them through the legal processes, at least the least you can do is wait for those processes to land before you start mentioning them and saying corruption was rife in the former government. That's the least you can do. Because at this point in time, you are not at the point where you can just mention their name and be making allegations. You are in court. So the court will make a pronouncement on that. So kindly allow the court to do that without lining up their names to justify your claim that there was rife corruption. That's what they're saying.
We are all on the same page. Maybe it's just a matter of semantics that is bothering us here. I'm saying that corruption, of course, corruption is an animal that is affecting everybody. This particular topic that we are discussing, we currently are discussing, has to do with corruption in one way or the other. So, why do you people also want to, say that the finance minister has actually engaged in corruption in one way or the other, when he himself has not been given the right to make an input into the report. You understand? I'm not holding brief for the finance minister. What I'm trying to say is that at the end of the day, people would have to answer for certain things, certain things that they have done in one way or the other during their tenure in office. And those persons that I'm mentioning, they were given the opportunity to, as it were, to pretend or man their portfolios. So whatever good thing or bad thing that happened at that particular time should be a subject of discussion. But you should, as a discussant, you should be mindful of that particular caveat called contempt. Because so if you are
now that they're in court, is beyond discussion.
So
it's beyond discussion.
So it's beyond discussion. But I should also have the courtesy, or I should be allowed to let Ghanaians know that these persons are, subject of legal processes in the court. That one too is contempt. I don't know. If that one is contempt, then I don't know what we can call contempt. I really don't get it. So I think that, like I said when I started, we ought to be minded by history. And the history is that corruption became an albatross around the neck of Ghana because of the NDC administration. They engaged in massive corruption to such an extent that they are now looking for equalization. And the equalization is not washing. They tried their possible best to to equalize, to direct everything at the doorstep of the sitting president. It is not washing. So I don't get it. So at the end of the day, we would only be lamenting, and that wouldn't give any person any positive kind of inclination, because if we don't allow this particular discourse to see how best we can stem the tide of corruption, then this country would virtually be a banana republic. That is not what we want. So yes, I believe that I'm on a sound footing when I'm mentioning those particular person's name, because I have not indicted them. I am mentioning their name because they are subject of legal processes, and I'm trying to apprise Ghanaians as to what happened during those particular time. I have not pronounced anyone guilty in one way or the other. So yes, I take counsel from Uncle Kusi for that particular admonition. But believe you me, I am not reckless. I am not reckless. I am just giving, the evidence before the good people of Ghana, because this is a serious station. You cannot be talking about corruption and there are other corruption related matters. Then you want people to shelve it. I don't get it. So I think this would be my initial comment, so that I would come back.
Thank you very much. Let me read a couple of the messages before we move on. I go to Jifa. Last time I'm done from Tamale says, say whatever Martinamido will set the record straight. He can't work with criminals. These MPP people are trying all they can to paint the president white. Meanwhile, his dark side is too severe to be covered. Is it not the same the same president the former GFA president had in his pocket? You said, thank you. Olanyo Nakwetia says, former special prosecutor has become an object of ridicule in the eyes of Ghanaians who diligently disappointed us by putting our trust in him and used to hold him in high esteem to check corruption. Let truth be told, Martinamido can't work with anyone. It is obvious that he is simply a failure and desperate, trying to find excuses to justify his failure and incompetence as special prosecutor. Mohamed Masaudu says, so what at all has Nana Akufo-Addo done with the unprecedented 157 billion cedis borrowed and 214 billion cedis tax revenues collected, for aside using 22 billion cedis to deliberately collapse indigenous bank, building of toilets and family wealth? He says the resignation of Martinamido has exposed the president to be, the most corrupt and nepotistic president ever in the history of the Fourth Republic. Thank you for those messages. Keep them coming. Jifa.
Sena, good morning once again. Good morning to my Uncle Kwesi and to our new friend Protocol here, and also to Honorable Fifi. I'm so excited meeting him here today. He's my ghost friend, but today we've seen ourselves in the flesh. This Agyapa, this whole thing came, or should I say, was born out of the Agyapa scandal to begin with, way back to when it was in Parliament. And the NDC made so much noise about it. At the time, people thought, or should I say the NPP thought it was noise making. I remember very well when Kojo Nkrumah stood on his grounds and defended the indefensible, said so many things, and even wanted to, joke with the whole situation in Parliament. At the end of the day, when NDC was explaining to Ghanaians that this is a complete fraud situation and this is a plot to rob Ghana of the one thing that matters most to us, the one thing that we are well known for in Ghana, which is our gold, the NPP wanted to strategically rob us of it, especially because in my own view, they have realized that they are exiting very soon. And this was the only way, or should I say the only final looting they could sort themselves out with, which would even project them to about 15 years and over. And that alone in itself, plus of course the speed with which they wanted to pass this deal. If I am not wrong, my honorable member is here. They wanted it to go through, I think, by the mid of October or so, right before the elections. And this in itself tells you the intentions that they had behind it. Because if not at all, if the entire parliament hasn't decided yet or is not sure about this deal, what we could do was to wait, go through it one at a time, and then finally, commence with whether we've agreed on whether we agree that it is good or not. But no, it was even given an executive approval after the minority boycotted it. At the time, it was just NDC. So everyone else thinks that NDC wants to make some more noise. Until the Attorney General made statements against the deal, their own Attorney General appointed by the President. And of course, let me stand here and say that we are all politicians. But in as much as we are, I am NDC and then the NPP is NPP, we have a few truth sayers within the NPP. Or let's say a few people who can't see gross thefts like this and ignore it. And you realize that the Attorney General was not able to hit him too much, of course. If today a whole special prosecutor has been stopped from doing his work, his mission has been interrupted and tried being manipulated, then who is the Attorney General to the President? That notwithstanding, the special prosecutor whose office was created by the President, who claims that he hates corruption, he is an anti-corruption agent sent to come and save Ghana from so-called gross corruption, decides to do a risk assessment plan. And let me just say that I am very excited about that particular thing called risk assessment. And I think that in coming governments, it should be something that is considered. Let's not forget that this is something that the special prosecutor himself decided to do. It wasn't an initiative of the President. Because at the end of the day, when we are going to purchase something or we are running into a deal, people in our basic business world, sometimes we go to the extent of hiring the services of a professional to give us a brief about the business we are entering, the risk that we may face, the profits, and everything that we need to know, so that we go in with like high shoulders. And that is what the special prosecutor tried to do. Let me put it that way. Unfortunately, it was a sham. Should I say what he realized out of the Agyapa assessment was a complete disaster. It was a no-go area. This thing shouldn't have even been had sent to Parliament, not to even talk about being given an executive approval. In any way, let me just throw us back a little bit to why and how funny it looks for the NPP now to have nothing but insults for the special prosecutor. And let me state it emphatically, I am not here to defend the special prosecutor. He is a member of the NDC, he has his own style, he is his own person, I respect him for that, but I'm not here to defend him. But you see, I can't seem to forget the excitement within the NPP the day the President announced that we were going to have Honorable Martin Amidu as the special prosecutor. My boss here was mentioning the accolades they threw at him. he was so good, he was incorruptible, he was firm, he was this. In fact, all good stuff, such a solid reputation. In fact, last 2 weeks I was set with an MPP guy, and then there was a topic of whether Martin Amidu was an NDC or not, whether he was a good person or not. And come and see how this guy, Saka, Pan-African guys know him, how this guy was so defending Martin Amidu, because after all, he is such a wonderful person. We haven't seen his kind before. And you know what? At that time, it was probably because he had only, should I say, a few negative reports to write about the ruling government at the time, which was NDC. But today, when the MPP has been found swimming in muddy waters, in stinking waters, and the special prosecutor, he claims he's doing his job, is trying to put them right, they come back and only want to pave their way through this whole situation by trying to paint him black. But it doesn't work, because at the end of the day, these are the same people who raised his standards, or should I say, who shone so much bright light on him, as though he was a saint. He was Junior Jesus, let me say that, or the second coming of Jesus. Today, the stinking Agyapa scandal that should have been a not has been exposed. Martin Amidu says that out of courtesy of President Akufo-Addo being the president of the Republic of Ghana, I have just sent him a copy of my assessment. And then there and there, he gets an unpredicted reaction from the president, being that the president sends his aide, or should I say his chief of staff, to get a meeting with Martin Amidu and tell him to hold on with moving on with the case for about a week. And in Martin Amidu's letter, moving on with the case meant that he had finished the risk assessment. He wanted to now prosecute the case, or should I say investigate. Let me use that word, investigate the case. Now, Martin Amidu says, okay, out of courtesy, let's see, I don't know what the person wants to say, let me just hold on. Goes to his office. And the president tries to manipulate Martin Amidu from taking any further attempts towards this case. Martin Amidu says, and in his letter, that he reluctantly agreed. And after he reluctantly agreed, he had realized that the president wanted to meddle in his investigations. And there he told the president that he does not see himself continuing the job and he has intentions of resigning. He told the president there. In fact, after the president had made this thing known to Martin Amidu, he tried to insist Martin Amidu takes copies of Ken Oforiate's reports, or should I say, so-called comments on the Agyapa deal to be inserted in what Martin Amidu intended to publicly bring out in a few days' time, which he denied, or should I say, he turned down completely. In any way, what was the president seeking to achieve by doing that? Or if somebody, like my brother protocol here, will tell me that the president wasn't meddling in his business, Martin Amidu's business, what is the meaning of trying to give a copy of Oforiate's comments to Martin Amidu to insert in his assessments? What does that mean? Probably I am not, I'm a stranger in these matters. So someone should tell me what it means if it does not mean that you are trying to meddle and manipulate the investigation that I'm trying to do, I'm doing here. So when you have someone like the special prosecutor who is very experienced in this particular field, telling you that it was a clear signal that the president intended to meddle in his business and went ahead to present comments from the finance minister, and let us put it on record here that Martin Amidu didn't send a copy of this assessment to the finance minister. So the president had decided to go and share that copy with him and agree on what they could do about it, because it indicts the finance minister a lot. You tell me that he has no intention, forgetting the fact that just a few days after that meeting, unknowingly, the president decides to release a letter that will undermine the seriousness attached to this assessment that Martin Amidu has done. So that in the case where Martin Amidu is coming to post his assessment, or should I say release it to the public in a few days' time, everyone will think that it's a useless thing. But of course, Martin Amidu had played smart and done it before. That last action alone tells you how scheming the president is, how much he wants to scheme. You come and sit here as at the time that the NDC was in parliament talking about this. The president and the office of the president in its entirety were behaving as if they don't know about this Agyapa deal. It is just a few of his family and friends who haven't probably told him anything, who are trying to work around it. But today we realize that he is the master brain behind it. He's the mastermind. He was the one who orchestrated it, and he has been lying to us for years. When he lied to us about this Jida issue, when Agyapa, the former energy minister, was sacked about this issue, renovation issue, and he told us, a whole president of Ghana, who has made us believe from 2016 or from the time he was campaigning that he's so vigilant, so well versed, so qualified, and so learned to lead the country. He comes to tell us or give us an excuse that he was misled after signing this deal yourself. That is such disrespect. And I wonder why Ghanaians decided to even take that particular statement and accept it. Misled. Like seriously, that alone should have brought up us on our feet to realize that probably the president is sitting in the comfort of his office and signing deals that he has no idea about. That a very important deal like this, a deal that you, MPP, Akufo-Addo, and the entire government today criticized so much in 2016 when it was in His Excellency John Dramani Maham's term of office. A deal that you criticized so much. So much so that the normal Ghanaian would be thinking that this deal would have been something that you took on cautiously because you criticize it so much. You come inflate prices more than what you talked about. Work on a very miserable ending and then come and tell us you were misled. A president misled. So it is true. When we hear that it's the Gabiochi Dakos and the Asaribedi Etuos who are actually ruling the country, so it is probably true when we hear that the president is somewhere in his corner, relaxing and enjoying Ghana's money with his family and friends, because you work on this day and tell us you were misled. But today, Martin Amidu, with this expose, this assessment, which I want to call it expose because it has exposed the president, has told us and proven to us that indeed all these scandals that have been going on is an orchestration by President Akufo-Addo, the most corrupt leader, unprecedentedly corrupt in the history of Ghana today. And we are so ashamed because, and Ghanaians are so disappointed because this was the one person who came to claim whites. He used his fellow politician to compare himself and made it look like somebody was bad and he was so good. Upon all the institutions of justice that we have in this country, he said no, because he was a saint and he was in fact he used the word incorruptible several times, and his people did, because he was incorruptible and so dedicated to attacking corruption. He was going to create a new office called the Office of the Special Prosecutor to make sure that they attack every corruption case, and decided to even choose one of our own, Martin Amidu. And I will never forget the dance that my father's friend here, Kweku Bako, danced in the studios of Peace FM when Martin Amidu was appointed special prosecutor. He danced. In fact, I had never seen him dancing before. So that day his spirits were so high. And I would say again that the entire NPP of Ghana here on that day thought, oh God, we have just created a weapon to destroy and cut NDC into pieces. And today how they are feeling right now is that they have paid somebody, or should I say they have installed somebody, hired somebody for 34 months just to shoot them back with their own gun. That is what has happened. So today when the NPP are trying to attack Martin Amidu, in fact it just doesn't make sense, because these are the same people who had only good things to say about him. Today you want to attack the same man. The incorruptible man, the unshakable man, the truthful man has come out and said this Agyapa deal is a disaster and the president tried to stand in my way. Today you want to say what? Martin Amidu just released 3 pages, just about less than 10 paragraphs, before he realized Office of the Special Prosecutor had released over 40 paragraphs. Office of the President had released over 40 paragraphs telling us nothing. 40 paragraphs, some are here, telling us nothing. You see, when the special prosecutor, he has a style. Sorry, he has a particular style because he believes that he's very truthful, and he's not. And I quote his own words that he is a special. He prosecutes and not a political entrepreneur or anti-corruption. Yes, he's an anti-corruption agent and not an anti-corruption entrepreneur. When he states that, we probably may not understand him, but today, the man that the NPP held so high in their books and thought was going to stab NDC repeatedly has come out and given his brief assessments. And you know what? In his letter of resignation, as per his style, he even quotes the reference number of letters, quotes dates to tell you how true it was. And like, in fact, he's trying to give you a picture. He quotes the day intervals in each meeting. In all the responses that the office of the president brought, not once did I see anything about them denying, or the chief of staff denying that he was sent by the president indeed to go there. Not once did we hear about the president denying that he actually invited Martin Amidu. Not once did we hear in their response that the president says he didn't say what Martin Amidu quoted in his letter of resignation. That means that as we stand here, everything that Martin Amidu wrote in his letter of resignation is true. Every meeting that he claims he had with either the chief of staff or the president is true. The things he said, the president said, is true. Because if till now, none of these things have been addressed by the president, whether or not I called you, whether or not I said hold on till 1 week after I come back from Volta region, whether or not I told you not to go further into this, whether or not I offered some comments from Ofuriata, none of them is true. None of them has been yes, highlighted in his letter. It is only they beating around about the bush, and it's so embarrassing the disgrace they found themselves in. And what are you going to tell Ghanaians? Martin Amidu has accused you. Come and defend yourself based on what he has accused you about. But you have nothing to say. Nothing to say. Corruption upon corruption, smelling. It is so filthy as we sit here. It is so filthy what the NPP has done. And the reason why Ghanaians are so peeved and hurt and disappointed to the highest degree is that these were the same people who were screaming 2016 by this time, corruption, corruption, corruption. Today, have you heard one NPP communicator in any station, radio station or TV station, talking about corruption before? Today, it is not in their dictionary. You ask them what is corruption, and they'll tell you they don't understand, or they'll tell you it has different meanings. Which one are you referring to? Because today, they are the corruption campaigns. They are the ones leading the crusade, corruption. They are the ones who are embarrassing us worldwide, because this Agyapa issue had the attention of international media houses. It is so embarrassing. And then if I want to refer to the part where